All right, and we're live. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the LAN Party Show. Today, I am joined by a good friend of mine, a frequent collaborator, Tommy with Games Whisper. He is the owner of Whisper. He created it. It's his website, gamewhisper.com, where he reviews video games. Tommy, how are you doing?
Very good, Brent. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I've been trying to get you back for some time now,
Mm.
it's finally working out. So, before we kind of get into the meat and bones of things, what have you been up to lately? What have you been playing? How's life treating you?
Yeah, pretty good. I've been just dying away on Sekiro for a bit. um,
You will get into that.
yeah. Also, playing the Division 2. Really enjoying
Nice.
that. And to keep it Japanese themed, I'm still playing 428 Shibuya Scramble. Loving that game.
Nice.
And,
And
yeah.
on a brief topic, on a brief sort of we're going to talk about a lot of Japanese games today, but on a brief deviation from that, I've heard the Division 2 is actually really good. What
Yeah,
can you say about that?
surprisingly, like I didn't know what to expect, but I don't know. It's just a really solid, fun loot shooter. Like I can't really tell much difference between this one and the first one, but I'm just having that same level of fun all over again.
That's cool
So,
because like I played the demo for the Division 1. What was that, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whenever that came out?
yeah, 2016.
And I guess like at the time I was fully like I was like enveloped in Destiny at the time, and to me it just didn't seem anything new compared
Yeah,
to Destiny. So I know that I stayed away from it because I was playing Destiny. I was already sort of playing a loot shooter or one of those like kind of games where like
yeah.
where like you can do multiplayer, you could do solo, and there's like a big social, open space, social area, things like that. So I was kind of already playing a game like that, so I stayed away from it.
Yeah,
But
that's fair enough.
I know that but I actually read that the Division 2 is actually getting really good scores all around.
Mm. Yeah, I think it deserves it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. There's just that constant drip feed of loot that keeps you, I don't know, always addicted to it. The missions are really fun. The combat's really good.
Okay.
It feels, a little bit like a strategy game as well, where your placement is and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
That's good. Better than Anthem?
Yes. Yeah. Uh,
I've actually, just because, man, 2019's been good so far. It's been good to me so far. Um, and my backlog is getting ever so
yeah.
larger. Um, so and like Anthem has kind of fallen in there into like the backlog. I do want to complete it, but like it isn't that good. It has the potential to be good.
Yeah.
Or it had the potential to be good. But
Yeah. It might have lost too many people in the
I
meantime.
I think the problem with it was back, with EA owning it. It was doomed to fail to begin with because
Yeah.
EA's just got a bad rap, and the problem is like, and what sucks is like what sucks is the game had to be developed by such a great developer, because now
Yeah.
BioWare is getting so much crap for
Yeah.
developing this like subpar game, which is unfortunate because BioWare's created some of the best games ever made,
I know,
whether it
I know.
be
And the thing is,
whether
it's not just Anthem, it's the last two games that they've done that haven't been so great. So their reputation's taken a bit of a hit.
well, and like the problem is though is well, okay, let's talk about we'll get into this. Is an interesting topic conversation, and we will get to our Japanese related stuff here in a minute. Um, but here's the thing: Andromeda was not that bad of a game.
I
Okay,
still finished it. I still tried to complete it, but it just doesn't compare with the original trilogy.
no, no. As I am one of the biggest Mass Effect fans you'll ever come across. Mass Effect, the
Yeah, fair
original
enough.
Mass Effect trilogy is one are like some. I will include them as one singular game. The Mass
Yeah, I
Effect
think that's fair.
trilogy is like my favorite game series ever created.
Yeah,
Just simply
it's
for the
right up there.
yeah, just simply for the fact that like you can create these characters and create this story any way that you want, And the problem that I had with Andromeda was not that it wasn't necessarily issues, but one thing that I had a problem with it is BioWare already created, a set of characters that I fell in love with, and I didn't want to fall in love with new characters again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So that's kind of like where and like the beginning of this story also, it didn't quite capture me the way that the beginning of like the Reaper saga or whatever you want to call it did with Mass Effect 1. I don't even know I don't still fully understand the direction that BioWare was planning on taking with Mass Effect Andromeda, but like
Yeah.
as like but like, the gameplay for Mass Effect Andromeda, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's got solid gameplay. The
Jumping around with your sort of jetpack thing was fun.
the engine that EA has for their companies, it's not a bad engine. It's not. And I really liked the what they put into Mass Effect Andromeda, but yeah, it just fell short with me. And so then moving on up to Anthem is uh BioWare could have done a lot with Anthem. I think
Oh yeah.
they could have easily, they have a reputation of creating these great stories with several dialogue options and being able to create your own story as you go. And I think that they could have done that with Anthem, but they just chose to focus on just like the sort of like the multiplayer aspect of it, which is unfortunate because BioWare is such a great company, and the fact that they're getting slowed down by the fact that EA has all these rules for their very many different divisions, uh, it's just ridiculous. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, they seem to have focused so much on nailing the gameplay, which they did. The gameplay was really, really
Mhm.
fun. Um, but yeah, kind of the rest of the game, it's like they kind of rushed through that just to get it done, and that was it.
Yeah, and the problem with this is that it's gonna get hit. What's a good in the past 7 6 7 months, we've seen two games that just got kind of screwed over by like bizarre development cycles and like and things that the fans just didn't want, and that was Fallout 76
I had a feeling.
and now, I mean, I still like Fallout 76. I try
That's
to
good.
s- I, tr- I try to see it for what it is. But what the problem with it is you once you've played it with other people, once you played Fallout 76 with other people, you can't go back to playing it by yourself because
Ah, okay.
it is a relatively boring game to play by yourself. Now, if you play it by yourself and continue playing by yourself and don't let single player get tainted by the multiplayer, then it's all right. But like the moment that you start playing with other people and go back to playing by yourself, you realize how boring of a game it is.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I probably would have preferred to play it solo if I did play it. So maybe it's for the best that I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is, well, like I just said, if you played it solo, then maybe like me, if I had a good time playing it solo until I started playing with other people, and then I
Ah,
went back to
okay.
playing with it, then I went back to playing by myself, and I was like, this is really boring. There's nothing here. There's
Yeah,
nothing to
okay.
do. Um, but apparently Fallout 76 got a really good update, and I'm actually going to try it. I'm either going to play a little bit tonight or tomorrow, but later on that. So the reason why we're here to talk about we'll talk about some really awesome Japanese games, and the first one we'll talk about is what's featured in your background, Persona 5. I and I don't know what got me on. I can't really Mona Morgana is great.
Yeah.
He's a great character. Um um
I
I don't
think a
know
big
what
step up from Persona 4's mascot character.
what's that.
Morgana's gone, I think a big step up from Persona 4's mascot character.
Um
Morgana's just got more attitude and just I think a
oh
better.
yeah, he's great. He's and like I always keep him in my party. He's got a perma spot until someone else
Yeah.
has mass heals. Um so I don't remember what got me onto playing this game. I think I was just in the mood to play something different. And
Right, yeah.
I don't know
Choose it, right.
I don't know if I was talking to you. I think I ran it by you at one point. And you were just like, "Let me know if you get it and let me know what you think." I know that that was one portion of the many conversations we've had of Persona 5. Um but I can't remember how exactly I got onto it. But like I started researching it and trying to figure out if it was something that I wanted to buy. And even the people over at the GameStop here where I live, they were like, um, it's a game not for everybody. Just recognize
Yeah.
that. Because I was looking for a physical copy of it. And they're like, well, you could always just digitally download, but the only problem is you wouldn't be able to return it. Um, so I
Yeah.
decided, yeah, so I decided to take a risk, and I did get the digital download, which I'm really bummed out about because I love having physical copies of my games, and the fact that Persona 5 is becoming one of my favorite games that I've ever played. The
Ooh,
fact
me
that I
too.
the fact that I don't have it in a physical copy is really bumming me out. However, I guess they just announced a new edition that's coming
Oh,
out.
really?
Yeah, they announced some new, I don't know, I'll look it up here in a minute. But yeah, there's a new edition that's coming out that's supposed to feature like new characters and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'll have to buy a physical copy of that just so that way I can have it um in my collection. But it's interesting. Persona 5 is a very interesting game because a lot of, a lot of people online call it like a teenage simulator, which is essentially what it is.
In some
Um,
ways, but
but and it like the game is so incredibly intricate, and usually it's a kind of game that I wouldn't play because it's very involved. Wouldn't you
yeah,
agree? Like,
definitely. That's why it's not the most accessible game.
hmm
Which in a way is a good thing and a bad thing because if it's not that accessible, not many people are going to play it.
yeah,
But if Atlas, the developers, if they kind of dumb the game down to make it more accessible, it would lose what makes it special.
exactly. And I totally agree with that. So, so the reason why I like it's weird because we'll use the game The Witcher 3 for example. I can't play The Witcher because it's too involved. There's so much going on in that game at once. And the thing is, I love gaming. I love gaming so much, but I only have a certain amount of like um I only have a certain amount of time in my life to sort of dedicate to it. So I have to, if
Yeah,
that makes any sense. Like the thing is, the
yeah, because
The Witcher is so grand in everything that it wants to have you do. You know, it wants you to go and explore this, create this, create that, and all in order to survive in the gaming in the world. Um, so I've bought The Witcher 3 twice at full price and give
oh, okay,
and returned it both
oh,
times
okay,
because it was just too much for me to handle. It was too much for me to handle in a single game.
that's fair
Um,
enough. I
um,
spent like over 400 hours on that game. I loved it. Also, one of my favorite games of the generation.
it I will not there's a point that I'm trying to make. So in
Mm,
regards to Persona 5, so trust me. I do not deny The Witcher's greatness. Everything that I've read on it, and maybe someday I will go back to it, but it's just like
right.
it's another one of those games where apparently you could just spend hundreds of hours in,
Yeah,
and I the thing is I don't have 100 hours to pour into a single game because there's all these other games coming out that I want to play, and I'd
that's
rather
true.
so I want to be able to experience a lot of those games in real time. So, um, so back to Persona, with the amount of stuff that you have to keep track of in Persona, I'm surprised that like I actually could get into it the way that I did. Um,
Yeah,
bec-
it has this knack of just constantly pulling you in because you
mhm,
make a plan to do things on one day, and then it might not happen, and then you want to play
yeah.
till the next day, and then something else might delay you, and you just keep going, and by
I
then the
have,
day's over.
I know that there's no such thing as doing just 15 minutes of that game. There's no such thing as doing, there's no such thing as doing just an hour of that game. Like when I played for just an hour the other day and I got nothing done.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about
Nothing,
right.
nothing. It's like basically it was it was like the weeks after you complete Kanashiro's palace leading up to Futaba's palace. So basically, you know how like in between palaces you can't really do anything. The game kind of puts you on rails and it
Yeah,
makes
I
you.
mean, you can go to what's it called, Mementos? Is that it?
Yeah, you could go to mementos, but it won't necessarily let you go and do stuff in the afternoons and the evenings. It just kind of puts you on rails as they guide you
Interesting story.
through the so I played for an hour and I went through like a week of time and I didn't do anything because it just is like it's just like here we are doing it's a week worth of in-time game, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I didn't do anything, but I got to go to bed now. And it's
Yeah.
like is like if you want to ever do it, like I noticed that if you ever really want to do anything that is meaningful within the game, it's kind of like Mass Effect in that regard. You got to put like at least 3 hours in, or else you're just not going to be able to have any fun with it. Because I know that okay, that was wrong wording. Okay, that was
Yeah,
wrong
I know.
because even like the remedial bullshit tasks that you do in both, like let's say we'll use Mass Effect 1. There's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of dialogue that happens in Mass Effect 1, especially in the beginning of the game, where like you'll lose 4 hours of your time and you've just been running around the Citadel for the entire time.
Yes, yes, especially in between missions, like do the
Exactly.
rounds, go around, talk with everyone, and that takes up a couple of hours on its own.
But like you said in Persona, it's like, okay, one day you're gonna be like, okay, I want to work on my kindness. I want to get my kindness up so that way I can do this, that, or the other. But all of a sudden you've got the doctor calling you and you're like, she's like, hey, come over. And I'm like, shit, I could use like another rank up in the doctor. I got
I
to do that.
know. Or you
And,
get like 3 people calling you sometimes, and you
I know.
don't know what to do.
And I think like, and like, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know why I find that fascinating, but like the game is like, it's a stroke of genius. And I wish that more
Mm.
JRPGs were like that, because and it makes turn-based combat fun again.
I know they made it a lot more quicker pace, so you can get back into exploring the palaces and all that.
Yeah. And it's weird because like, yeah, like Atlas just put everything that you possibly could enjoy in a everything that you could possibly enjoy about a JRPG, they crammed in that game, right down to capturing Pokemon.
Oh yes, yes.
It's just like
That
it's
was a lot of fun.
fantastic. And but it's like it's funny, like no disrespect, but and when I say this, no disrespect to their culture, but the game is super Japanese. Like
Oh yeah, but I
it's
love
just
that side of things. It's made me want to go to Japan.
yeah, it's like um like and like it's interesting that like, you know, it's when I play Persona 5, I'm really surprised that there are certain parts of it that are left in for like certain audiences around the world, because it's like I'm playing this and like, what? You're seducing your teacher right now? Like you
Yeah.
your teacher's coming over dressed in a maid's outfit, offering to provide favors. It's like, come on. That is a happy ending waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Like
I
and
never finished off her storyline, so I don't know if that happens, but
like
maybe I should do New Game
I
Plus.
I've done I've had okay, so sometimes I do this, especially if a game has been out for a long time and I want to talk about it. I will go and I'll look up everything. I don't care if it spoils anything. I don't care
Mm,
if it
I
so
couldn't do
I
that.
know, but it doesn't take away the enjoyment of the game. So I know how the game ends to some extent. I know that there's a couple different endings that you can get. Um, but like the thing is, I've also looked up like which confidants are really good to level up, so I kind of know what
Okay.
each confidant level is. So like right now, I'm trying to get the doctor and the teacher leveled up, because the doctor, you know, the doctor gives you SP rejuvenations and cheaper items to get it there, and the teacher
Yeah.
gives you
More time
um,
away from class?
time away from class, and I think her rank 10 perk is really good too, but I can't remember what it is. Um,
Okay. Yeah, no, I wouldn't
so
know.
but so that's the kind of stuff that I look up just to help me kind of get through the game a little bit easier.
Yeah,
Um,
because you've got so many choices, you wanna make sure you make the right one.
yeah, exactly. Now, let me ask you this: is there a way, like, and spoiler alert to anybody who's listening, who or watching, who's never played Persona 5, um, but is there a way to completely like there's multiple endings, right?
I don't know, is there? I
Like,
know the previous games, like number 4 kind of did, but you had to make sure you made the right choices to get to the best ending, which is annoying if you spend so long in a game you don't get a good ending. But with this one, I think it was pretty lenient. I don't remember having to look up anything to try to get the best ending, so I'm not
Okay.
really sure.
Because I mean, I guess the only basically I don't see how you could possibly get a bad ending in that game. You just have to really screw up, like you said, and if you run out of time, you just get pushed back a week or so, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about any good ending or bad ending, but I got a good one, I guess. So
Yeah. Was it the one where they're driving away in the van?
yeah.
Yeah, that's the good ending. That's like the ending that I'm aware to be the good true ending.
Oh, what's the bad
Um,
one?
I don't know. Like I kind of was watching some stuff. I know that if you run out of time at Kanashiro's, not Kanashiro, but Kama, what was the name of the guy, first guy? I forgot his name. They're all like really,
Kamishita?
huh?
You almost had it. Kamishita?
Kamashita. There's Kamashita and Kanashiro.
Yeah, I know that got me mixed up.
But so the first palace, Kamashita, I know that if you run out of time on that, the cops will come and arrest you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But that's at the start. How does that affect the rest of the game?
I don't know, but that's just it was like earlier today. I was watching YouTube videos on like what happens if you run out of time, and that was just the only one that kind of popped up. Maybe that's what happens on all of them. Maybe it's kind of a similar thing that happens. The police come and arrest you for some reason or another. But I don't see. But it's interesting if you manage your time well. There's no way that you could ever run out of time in that game.
No, it doesn't take too long to complete each palette. Let's just give yourself 3 or 4 days. You got 2 weeks in game to do it.
Yeah, well, depending on the palace, though, like Futaba's palace, I get a little over a month.
Oh, really?
Well,
So
no,
that's the Egyptian one, isn't it?
no. Futaba's palace is 28 days. It's 28 days. You get 28 days to. Yeah,
February.
yeah. It's you get a 4 weeks to do that one. So I've been kind of messing around in the real world with that one, but I am kind of learning that it's best to get to the treasure. So it's best to secure a route to the treasure before you do anything else. Like
Just be on the safe side. You don't know how long it's going to take and how tough it will be.
Yeah,
and you want to grinding in just in case.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now. Is like I have yet to really truly enter Futaba's palace to get it. But I think that's what I'm going to do next because I've been kind of messing around trying to rank up some of my social links.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so what else is there to talk about with Persona 5? Because there's a lot to talk about with this game.
I know it's a lot more eventful than the previous ones because you know how you're sort of not complaining, but you were saying how you wanted more free time, how the game puts you on rails. In the previous ones, it's maybe not on rails enough. Like there'll be a cutscene here and there, but you'll get a lot more time to do more activities. But Persona 5, it sort of took its storytelling to another level. That's probably why there's less time to do things. So I think it ends up being a good thing. But yeah I know what you mean when you just want to get into leveling things up.
Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate the focusedness of it because like I said, sometimes with some games that are really involved and they're like super open, the way like we'll use The Witcher again. The Witcher is an incredibly open game and it's also very involved, which can actually be which to me can be overwhelming.
Oh yeah. I hate that feeling sometimes.
So, but like, what's great is that one thing that I do, I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I'm okay with the involvedness of Persona 5 is that, the areas, you're in a semi-open world, but it's like each section you can explore, but it's very compressed.
Like you can only pick one thing to do, even though you've got many options.
Exactly.
I always refer to it as the least linear game out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying when you say that. What do you recommend to be the best social links to work on in that game from your experience?
What was his name? That kid who's at school with you and he's sort of semi-annoying. What was his name?
Is it Fushima? The one that runs the Phantom site?
Yes, him.
Yeah. I think it's Kashima. Yeah.
you get XP boosts, and that's always good to get done as soon as possible so you can level up more often.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. But yeah, you're right. I don't really like hanging out with him. Like,
Yeah, that's the only drawback.
there's, I'd rather be like hanging out with, and the another really ending one is the re- the
Are you
reporter,
there?
Tommy. Yeah,
Yours?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, yep.
Was,
Yours was
okay,
spacing.
okay. Oh, weird. Okay, but am I back now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. What do you? I was saying that another really annoying one is the reporter.
What up?
She invites you to the bar all the time.
Oh yeah, her. What was her name? Started with O.
Yeah, I just don't know what her benefits are. So it's just kind of like,
Oh, was it to do with Nah, yeah, I didn't spend much time with her.
yeah, and then I have yet to unlock. Just because like like is like it's really hard to unlock some of these confidants too, these social link confidants,
Yeah,
because you
like
have
the
to.
girl in the church. I think she took a bit of time to get.
Who's that?
Uh,
Who was that?
the girl in the church.
I haven't even gotten there yet. I mean,
Okay.
I think that option is available to me.
Yeah.
Um,
But because you want to focus on everything else you're doing, you don't want to venture out and do something new. That also keeps them hidden.
yeah. Um, like right now, like if I had 100,000 yen to spend, I could go get the fortune teller. Um,
Oh, yeah, I completed her storyline.
oh, you did?
I'm
Was
not
it
sure
was
why. I don't think the benefits were that good, but the story I think was interesting.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll have to check that one out then. Well, okay. So let's see. What else is there about Persona 5? Because there's all, yeah, it's a really interesting story. That one's really cool.
I know.
But
I just love how there's oh, it's kind of played in chapters in a way
mhm,
without officially being in chapters. And I just love at the start of each one, there's going to be a really good storyline ahead, and it really takes the time to get into each one, and you get
yeah,
into the characters, and then when that's all finished, you've got the next one to look forward to, and
mhm.
I just love looking forward to each
Like
and every one.
each month is basically its own chapter, like you're saying. Like each month, because each month has its
Oh,
own
yeah,
kind of. Well, basically, it's each palace is kind of its own chapter, and they're always
yeah.
really like
They're
like
always a new character.
like right now I'm at like I said I'm at Futaba's, um who, once again, spoiler, she becomes a member of the Phantom Thieves, and
Mhm.
she's asking you to come and steal her heart, which makes things
Yeah,
complicated because the palace doesn't, initially the palace doesn't perceive the Phantom Thieves as threats because she's welcoming them in.
yeah, that's right.
um which is really neat. And but and I think the game does have really interesting characters, like Sujiro, Sakura, the cafe
Oh,
owner.
yeah.
I like, he's a curmudgeon, and are you
What?
familiar with? Okay, it's like I guess you could say, I think it's like it's probably American slang for grouchy old man.
Oh, okay. Well, what is it again? Curmudgeon.
Curmudgeon, yes.
I've
Um,
never heard of it.
yeah,
We'd
but yeah,
probably call him an old piker.
what's that?
An old piker. We'd probably call him that here. I don't know if you've
Okay. No, I haven't heard that. I love it. I love learning different, different slang for different things from around the world. It's really cool. But yeah, he's just kind of like he's this grumpy old man with a heart, and
Yeah,
he's like really fun. He's really interesting to talk to when he starts being nice to you. Um,
yeah. It's
but
always good to see characters develop over the game, and
mhm.
as you get to know him, you get to learn why he is the way he is.
And then on who kind of is perceived as kind of like this like pretty bitchy white girl, at the high school, turns out to actually be a very sympathetic character, just because like she's not as like entitled as everyone thinks that she is,
Yeah, yeah.
which is really dope. And then of course we got Morgana, who's great. Morgana's
Oh,
just a
yeah. Love Morgana.
sass talking cat. Um
and useful in battle.
Oh man, so useful in battle. It's and that's one thing that really it's like, man, I wish I could take all of these people into battle with me. I wish I could take them all in
No.
there.
You do know
Um,
that you can swap people out and then continue with them instead of just sticking with the same
oh yeah,
lot.
yeah. I know
Yeah,
that I can swap people out. And like I was talking to you, I think I hit you up on Instagram the other day, and I was saying that like it's nice knowing that different palaces have different challenges that require different party members uh to be, to be in that palace. Because like some
yeah,
I've noticed some palaces will have a lot of enemies, will have like three different
we
types of enemies, right? And they'll each have their own weaknesses, so you're going to naturally want to pick those three party members that will deal
that can
those
exploit that. Yeah,
um so like I have yet to use Yusuke because all he has is ice, and I haven't encountered
mm.
any enemies
Yeah.
that
There's not that
have.
many, but in time there will be.
Yeah, so it's like so I think Kanashiro's palace was the last one that I did, and a lot of the enemies in there were weak to they were weak to like to
Right.
nuclear abilities.
Oh yeah, because
Um
Makoto, she had that element. Makes
yeah.
sense.
So like, and that's one thing that's really cool too, is that it does encourage the game does encourage you to switch out different characters for different obstacles.
Yeah, I always
Um
did that. I mean, obviously, I joke and Morgana that they were definites, but yeah, pretty much. And if the storyline involves a certain character, I'd choose them. But they
mhm.
normally had the element that you needed anyway.
Oh, I've never I guess I've never noticed that. Like, did I use Yusuke in in his palace?
Madarame,
Did I use Yusuke in Madarame's palace?
I might have used him just for storyline reasons, but I can't remember if his element is good in there.
I think I might have done that too. Um and it's my understanding you do get Futaba about halfway through her palace, right? She does come with you into her palace, right?
Um, I really can't remember.
I
I
can't.
don't.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll probably have to do a follow up when I complete the game,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
like I mean, I'm probably I'm probably only a third of the way through it based on the fact that takes place over the span of a year.
mm,
Um, so like, and I'm only on the third palace, so I'm sure that I'll probably in a few months when I've beaten it, we'll have to.
maybe closer to
We'll,
40%, maybe.
yeah. Um,
But still, yeah, you got a long way to
Yeah,
go.
so we'll have to talk about it again once I've completed it, because I'm sure that there'll be I know that there's a ton of other characters and a ton of other stuff that will happen, and I am trying to keep that from being like spoiled for me, because I do want to see how certain things turn out,
Yeah,
even though I know how the game, even though know how the game ends. I only know the ending of the game, not necessarily I don't know the final boss, and I know that one character does betray the Fan of Thieves, and I know who that character is. I won't say the character's name
oh,
here. Um,
good
I've
call,
always
Tab.
okay. I will say this though. I always figured that character, and we'll leave the name out.
Mm,
And you know who I'm talking about,
yep,
right?
yep.
Okay, so I when he was first introduced and they started talking about other, and I don't even know if he's the one doing this, but it was just sort of when he was started talking about like how the Phantom Thieves are bad, but
Yeah, kind of anyway.
like the shadow versions of the palace owners were saying that other people have been coming in and fucking around with people's
Yeah,
heads.
yeah, that's right.
I immediately knew that there was something going on with that guy. You know who I'm talking about, right? Okay.
Yeah,
So like, and just through kind of like some of the stuff that I was reading, it popped up that this guy does betray them.
mm.
He
I had
joins
my
them, betrays
theories. I
them.
tried to work out who it was. I won't
Um,
say who I thought because that would be spoilers.
yeah, and so at this point, I think we should stop talking about Persona, because now we're getting into areas that I'm not completely familiar with. But we should have a follow up. We should
Yeah,
have when I do complete the game, we should have a follow up and talk about and just do kind of a complete spoiler cast edition, where
yeah,
we talk about Persona and kind of everything, and by then I'll have a full understanding of how the game works, and we can talk about who the best confidants, things like that.
Yeah,
So
best palaces, best characters,
yeah,
etc.
so yeah, we'll schedule that for another time after I've completed. I try to dedicate at least 2 or 3 days a week to just playing Persona. So
Oh, nice.
hopefully I'll have it completed in like a month or so.
Yeah, I still think there's
Easily
two
have
more
another
things we need
90
to
90.
talk about with Persona 5, though. Uh, the
Yeah, go ahead.
visuals, how amazing are they?
It's like a comic book. It's a manga. It's an anime manga. And
If
now I'm not the go ahead. What
if
you
it
saying?
wasn't for Cuphead, I think Persona 5 would have won all the best visual awards. I reckon.
Oh,
I
really?
think the game looks just
Did,
amazing.
did did now during that year did Cuphead win? Did you say that Cuphead won a lot of visual awards?
Yeah, all the like best animation and
Oh, okay.
visual style, that sort of thing.
But was Persona nominated in
Oh
those
yeah,
same categories? I
yeah,
and, like, and here's the thing. I'm not a huge anime nerd. I grew up with the typicals. I grew up with Pokemon. I grew up with Digimon, and I grew up with Dragon Ball Z. Those are like the Americanized anime
yeah. I watched them too.
that almost all Americans are familiar with. Now there are other animes that I've watched. I've watched like Rurouni Kenshin, which is a great one. If you've never watched Rurouni Kenshin, you should check out Rurouni Kenshin. It's fucking fantastic. But that's besides the point. But like I appreciate the art form of anime and manga or
Yeah,
whatever is the
amazing.
proper pronunciation. And this game has like in like the primary cutscenes where it just shifts entirely to anime.
I
It's
love that.
it's so awesome, so really good. And then the artistic style that they do for just like the actual
I know
gameplay,
everything from
it kind
from
you
the
know
characters, from the environments, even the menus. The menus look amazing.
it's it's one of the best UIs I've ever
Oh
seen.
yeah,
Um, like I can't think of a more like it's a surprisingly accessible user interface.
oh yeah.
It's fantastic. Um, and what's great is this is all in a way what we're talking about is my first impressions of the game, and just based off first
Yeah.
impressions of the game, it's so incredibly built that like it's like was it nominated for Game of the Year that year?
It was, and I was so hoping it would win. I knew it wouldn't,
What was
but
it
I
up
was
against?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Okay,
Yeah, and Mario Odyssey, Horizon, Zero Dawn.
but who won that year? Was it Breath of the Wild
Yeah, it won
or
pretty
Breath of the
much
Wild?
everything.
I'm still on the fence about getting a Switch. You know,
You got to get yeah, Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. They're the two main games you need to get.
right? But
It's
it's
worth
like
it.
I went into so I I don't know how I'm completely ignorant on how things work around the world, but every year I have to do I have to do tax forms to either pay money or get money back from the government. So this year I'm not too sure if you have to do something similar like that in Australia.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So I got 700 American um
Very nice.
and like it was burning a hole in my pocket. The money was burning a hole in my pocket and I really wanted to go spend it. And I went over to Target and uh and I was like, okay, I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go buy a Switch. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go buy a Switch. I I got into Target and I was like, okay, the Switch, I was like, okay, I have a budget of like $300 I'm going to spend, and that doesn't really help me out much because the Switch is 299.99, which is basically my entire budget. But I'm going to need to
Yeah,
get a game, and what sucks is like Breath of the Wild has been out what now for the entirety of the Switch's lifespan. It
yeah,
was a launch title on the Switch.
yeah. So about 2 years almost
That,
exactly.
and it hasn't come down.
It
So
hasn't. I look in the catalog because my cousin wants it, and I'm looking out for it for a cheaper price. But it's here. It's constantly $79
okay,
every week.
the standard in America the prices for a brand new game is 59.99 American. So
Is that
it
here?
so um and I'm sure that that's what it's equal to anywhere else in the world. Is just it's all probably all the same price when a new game comes
Yeah.
out. And I was just like, game and over time, games should go down in price, right? So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, maybe Breath of the Wild has gone down in price, but no. At Target, it was $59.99, and I was like, damn. So it was like, and it was the most intense 10 minutes of my life. It lasted. It it
Uh,
was terrifying because like I was looking at the Switch and I was looking at Breath of the Wild just like super intensely, and I was just going back and forth. It was a tennis match in my brain. Just do I
yeah.
get it? Do I don't get it? Do I get it? And I eventually just was like, you know what? Like I'm trying to build a computer. Um, I think I'm just gonna save my money for that. And I have a vacation coming up here in a couple months. And it's just like it's like I want to get a Switch, but there's so much other stuff that I'm trying to get that just kind of takes priority. So
Yeah, and you'll find that Nintendo games don't like to drop in price.
that's what
They're
a lot
very
of people
strict
have
with them.
told me. I think maybe it
Mm.
was you who told me that, but like other people, I think I've heard other people say that too. You know what? I think it was the GameStop guys that told me that. I think they said, "Yeah, Nintendo doesn't go down in price," and I'm like, "What? That sucks." But
No, no,
whatever.
it's stupid.
So, so let's move on. So we're gonna move. So Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is is the next and the game is, and we're talking about Japanese games, and this game is literally a Japanese game to down to all of the dialogue is spoken in Japanese, which is a fantastic
Yeah.
touch on the
So you
game.
haven't heard it in English at all? Because you can select it.
No, the subtitles are in English, but I don't think the game can be played. Can you can
Really? I thought you can change the speech because by default it's Japanese, but I could have sworn you could go into the options and change it to English. But I kept it as Japanese to keep it authentic.
I think I'm gonna go home and double check that.
I could have sworn.
And honestly, I probably and just for the sake of being able to okay, I'm going to sound a little redundant here when I say this. I do think that having the Japanese be a default thing, I think for someone like me who's lazy, I think if it can be switched to American, I'm probably going to switch it to English. That was the wrong way to put it because English is spoken everywhere. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna speak it. If the dialogue can be spoken in English, I probably will do that because uh reading the dialogue is great, but it does take away from like seeing like the
what
cutscenes
you think?
sometimes, things
Yeah,
like that. But I do believe that it is a fantastic touch. I don't think I've ever seen any other game do that to where where the default language is that of the country in which the game takes place. I don't even
yeah.
think what's that new game that's coming out probably within the next year? You know what I'm talking about, right? Is a Sony game. Um,
Is it a
uh,
Japanese one?
it's a Japanese one. And it's about another samurai character, but it's more of a realistic when they debuted it last year at E3. Do you know which one I'm talking about? What is that one
Uh,
called? Do I need to look it up?
yeah, it's not coming to me.
Let me look it up.
Oh, Ghosts of Tsushima.
Yes, that one. Yes,
That's
Ghost
right.
of Tsushima.
Yes, I want
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I don't even think that that's not even going to be. I mean, like they had cutscenes in the game. They had cutscenes of the game, and all the spoken dialogue was in English. So,
Mm,
um, I do think that
that might have
uh,
been just for the E3 audience, though. There might be a Japanese option. Who knows?
maybe that I mean, even Persona 5, you can switch it to the Japanese dialogue. I won't
Okay.
do that though. I think that would just be a little much for me because don't get me wrong. Like I do appreciate like. So here's the thing we'll take a look at something like Sekiro. Sekiro, the Japanese, it's all serious. It's kind of like you're watching a Japanese samurai movie.
Yeah.
Um, whereas I would be so whereas if I switched it over to in Persona 5, if I switched it over to Japanese dialogue, it'd be like I'm watching an anime. And I find that Japanese anime dialogue is super annoying. Um, so just because a lot of times it's a lot of times it's females doing male voices, and things like that. And you know, so it's like I can't watch Dragon Ball Z in Japanese.
Yeah, I think that's a female voice.
That is hardcore female voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
And
do
I
that.
think it's been the same female voice for like 30 years ever since it started. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and you want to know the reason why they've kept it a female voice is because I think, and I could be totally getting this wrong, but I will have the general idea. What I read is they kept the female voice because it represents Goku being a child. And a lot of times they'll use female voices for children in both American TV shows and in Japanese TV shows.
Okay,
Um,
that's
so
interesting.
that is what I've read. That they've kept it the female voice because it represents Goku being a man child.
But when he's being all serious and powering up and fighting, it kind of sounds ridiculous from what I've seen.
Oh, it's really ridiculous. Okay, so back to the point at hand, Sekiro. Um,
Yeah.
so
Uh,
Sekiro, you know, developed by From Software, the company behind the Soulsborne series, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne. Here comes another ridiculously difficult game by From Software, but it's fun.
it is. There's a lot more learning involved in this one.
Last night I was and shout out to this person. I was talking with Kristen over at 7 Days Week blog,
Oh, yeah.
and I was talking with her about it. So shout out to her. She's gonna hopefully be on. I believe she's gonna be coming on when we have our conversation next weekend.
Yes.
Where we all talk about what we like most about what makes video games great. So what makes a good video game? That's what
Yeah.
she was, you know, she asked me, where does Sekiro rank on the difficulty scale as far as From Software games? And let me let me ask you this, so that way I stop talking for a while. Where do you think Sekiro ranks on like the difficulty scale in comparison to the other games that From Software has put out?
Right at the top. Because with
Right.
the other games, because they had RPG elements, you could grind areas, you know, raise your stats just to give yourself a better chance. That's what I did in pretty much all of them that I've played, and I had a much easier time. But Sekiro, you can't do any of that. There are like some light RPG elements, but you have to play the game and progress further in order to get stronger.
So just to be clear, you rank Bloodborne being sort of kind of like easiest, right? And then
Hard to say, maybe because I didn't play Dark Souls 1 or Demon Souls, but maybe Dark Souls.
Well, let's just kind of say a series, as we'll compile them into series. So for me, Bloodborne is the easiest. Bloodborne.
Okay. That's fair enough.
So kind of where based off my first impressions of Sekiro, is I put Bloodborne at easiest, and I put Sekiro as middle, and Dark Souls as the most difficult.
Really?
Yeah. I personally like no, you're gonna do this is great. Okay, great. We'll have so what I find to be and once again, once I get maybe a little further into the game, maybe
Then
my
we'll
opinion will
talk.
change.
Then we'll see what you think.
But I just like the movability. Like, is that the right word? I find that the shinobi that you play as is his name Sekiro, or is that the name of his? I don't know what his name is. I don't know why they call it Sekiro. But the shinobi samurai that you play as, he's very mobile. He can move around really easily, and I find it to be easier to dodge enemies because you can jump and you can move quicker, and you have your grapple. And
Yeah, he's
so,
more agile because he can get around the place quicker, like the wall jump and all that sort of thing.
mm-hmm.
But the dodge it doesn't help you as much as in, say, Bloodborne. Bloodborne, the dodge, you go a lot further, and you're kind of a little bit invincible while you're dodging. In this game, there's no invincibility while you dodge.
Oh.
And yeah, and the role is, yeah, it's a lot shorter. So that's what I learned as I was dodging an enemy, and he still managed to hit me, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to really keep my distance now.
But it, so yeah, maybe it'll change. But as of right now, I am having an easy like. Don't get me wrong, I am struggling with the game. I am
Oh yeah, you
struggling
mean
with it is hard, and I'm trying to I'm still in the first area essentially,
have you
but
faced any
like,
mini bosses?
huh?
Have you faced any mini bosses?
No, unless that sledgehammer guy is a mini boss, but I don't think he's a mini boss. But he does have a lot of health.
Yeah. Does he have like two health bars? You know how they have the
Well,
two dots?
he's basically excuse me. He's like a sumo wrestler, but with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I definitely remember him. He's not too bad. There are future mini bosses that are quite annoying.
So, so you've progressed significantly more than I have in the game. So I'm gonna kind of let you take it. I'm gonna let you take it from here, and I'll just ask you some questions. So, about how many hours into the game would you say that you are?
uh, Maybe around 10.
10 hours?
Roughly guessing. Like, I kind of know where you are. Are you roughly around the area where the sledgehammer guy is?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, I left the temple, right? The rundown temple. I think that's what it's called.
Dilapidated
Um,
one.
huh?
Yeah, the dilapidated
Yeah,
temple? Is that
yeah, the dilapidated temple, whatever. Yeah, I think it's that one. So I've progressed through the area that's right after, like where there's like a bizarre looking rooster. That you kill like this,
yeah,
you kill that rooster thing. And there's some dogs, and then you fight sort of like probably like a mini boss, because he doesn't
yeah.
come
Closed
back.
gates before that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
so basically, I'm there. I'm right there.
Okay. So
So
you
So I'm not
that
very far. I'm not really far at all. Like,
that's like ranks in the middle.
so it's just kind of like, it's just like, and like, I was when I right before he got his arm cut off, I was like, okay, here I am. Here's the opening boss. I'm like, here's the opening boss that's going to test my ability. And it's like
Mm,
the boss is you have to lose to that boss. I lost to
yeah.
that boss in 2 hits. Like I was done. I didn't there like I didn't,
I wasted a potion as well on that boss.
um so but okay, so you're about 10 hours in. Um
Yeah.
what how would you how are the boss fights? Like, have you fought any major bosses yet?
Yes, I thought. Well, I think it's just been one major boss, and I posted a picture of me getting the trophy for it.
Okay.
Oh, it was really hard. If okay, with this game, you can't just use one strategy against everyone. You have to be able to do everything.
Right.
With the Souls games, you could stick with the one weapon, the same sort of the same strategy the whole time, and be fine with it. But with this game, because you've got multiple tools and the what's it called, prosthetic.
Mhm.
You have tools for that. You've got to. I've had to use all of them so far, and usually I wouldn't do that if I didn't need
Right.
to.
A lot of times with the Soulsborne games, it's just you poke them in the butt a bunch of times.
Yeah, dodge their attack, and hit them
Yeah.
yourself, and just keep
It,
dodging.
and what you're saying is consistent with what everybody's saying.
Okay.
I'm watching a lot of it. Last night you recommended that I record. As a matter of fact, folks, we are recording this on Sunday, 2 days after. I mean, I guess it would be Monday for you, but um, it's only a few days after the game has been released worldwide, and so not a whole lot of people are probably beating it. Even and even fewer people have probably purchased it, so on and so forth. Um, so in the but okay, so what I was saying was the all the other from all those, like, whether it be like game ranks or I follow game ranks, and I follow What Culture, and I follow a couple others on YouTube, and they're all kind of saying the same thing, that you have to use your whole arsenal in a
Yeah,
matter of speaking, or is you have to learn how to use your whole arsenal, because some things will work on some enemies, some things won't, and you just have to figure it out.
Yeah, and the really good thing about this game is the game does give you hints. It just doesn't spell it out for you and just shout it at you. Like it's always important to eavesdrop.
Hmm.
You know, you can eavesdrop, and they
Yeah.
kind of give you little hints that you can then use. Because against that first main boss, and it's kind of in a, it's not really a hidden area, but you won't find it naturally. So hopefully you do find it. Just explore that area that you're in well.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. Because I fought this boss, the lady butterfly, and I could barely make a dent on her health. She was so quick. I didn't know what to do, even though the game kind of does give you a couple of hints here and there. And then I looked up a strategy, and I was able to beat her, not comfortably, but I don't think there's any other way that you could have beaten her unless you follow this particular way of doing it. So that's why I told you the other day, don't be ashamed to look up tips on how to beat bosses,
Sure.
because
And
there's always going to be specific ways to do it. And that's what makes the game really hard, because if you go in blind, and I think I might do my research before each boss fight, really, if you go in blind, you're probably going to die.
I do that, I do that with Persona. I
Oh,
do,
really?
I
No,
research out, I research, I know this is kind of like a scapegoat, like a cop out, and maybe I'm not true. I'm experiencing the game in the way that I want to experience it. But I whenever I go into a new dungeon, I pull up a dungeon guide or a palace guide. And
oh,
I
really?
yeah.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily to like cheat my way through it. It's just, like I want to the game is really good and I want to get to the next part. And whatever gets me to the next part, the easiest, I do that. So but let's talk about challenging bosses. There's some challenging bosses in Persona.
I
They
know,
all have.
you think you're in control and you defeat all the other normal enemies quickly. All of a sudden, you face the bosses and your attacks do so little damage, and you're like, "Oh no, I've got to actually stay on."
You're gonna have to repeat that again. You
Yeah, I
kind of
think
cut
you
out for
need
a second.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you breeze through all the other normal enemies, and then when you get to the boss, you realize you do so little damage to them, and you're like, "Oh no, this is going to be like a 10-minute battle as opposed to like a 1-minute battle that you used to." And that's what makes it
Hmm.
difficult, because you don't want to run out of SP for healing. You don't really want to
Yeah.
waste your healing items. I don't like doing that.
No. But I do. So okay, but yeah, that's sort of we were talking about like strategies for fighting bosses in these in Sekiro. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I do like how like that from what I've read and what I appreciate. I haven't quite fully experienced it myself, but I do like that. I do like it's like, okay, we're gonna give you all of these things that you can use in this game, and you're gonna use them.
Yeah, and that's what makes the game so hard. You can't, like I've said before, you can't just grind your way to becoming stronger and then just owning the bosses. You have to play well. You have to learn how to deflect and roll at the right time. Know when to keep your distance. You got to know the enemy's attacks. You got to know everything. And the game it makes you want to play better. I think that's
Yeah.
a really cool thing about it, and that's what'll keep a lot
It
of people,
it,
including
it
myself, at it.
it's I think maybe want isn't the right word, but it demands you to play better. It's like the only way that you're going to get through this game is to, like you said in your Instagram post, was that you who said get good?
Yeah, yeah, you have to.
Is like you've got to get good. GITGUD, get good.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, I'm not a fan of that phrase, of that terminology, because
It's a little
it's
condescending,
it
but
is. It's super condescending, and like I've only heard video game fuckboys say that. Okay. Hey, I'm by no means calling you a video game fuckboy. Like you're using it
or
within
elitist would
you
be another term.
you're you what's that?
Or elitist.
Yeah,
Would that be
like,
another term?
well, yeah, I get, yeah, that might be a way to put it too. Like, uh, uh, a fuck boy here in the United States is like a douchey guy that thinks he can get all the girls. Okay, but
Yeah,
um, but like, yeah, essentially, like it's a phrase by those who think that they're better, that think that they're
yeah.
better than anybody, and I just don't like
But
that because it's like it's
yeah,
bullshit.
I only said it as a warning, saying you
But
have to
like,
be good at
but
the game.
you're using it in context. You're using it in
Not putting
solid
it down.
video game context advice. You're using it appropriately, and it does fit in this sense based on what I've read and based on what I've experienced in the only couple of hours that I've played the game, it
Mm.
like it's funny, like, like I've kind of gone through that first little area a bunch of times, and I have figured out how to, like, I'm learning how to, like, do the whole what is it? Taking people out of their stance, right?
Yeah, the posture, breaking their
Posture,
posture.
breaking the posture. So I get what you're saying. Um okay, let's see. I think I thought I had a few other questions. Um but yeah, oh yeah, another thing. So just to be clear to whoever is listening, watching this, this is by no means a Soulsborne game. It is developed by the people who created Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but it does not fall under a Soulsborne
No,
category because like you
there's
said, you can't grind, huh?
a lot of elements that are still similar,
Yeah.
like your rechargeable potion and the campsites, and there's a lot of similarities. But yeah, if you go into it expecting it to be like the others,
Yeah.
no.
Because like you said, you can't grind for experience. You can't grind for health potions. You can't.
You can grind to level up or to gain some extra skills, which can be useful, but I don't think that's going to tremendously help you with, say, bosses.
Right. Um, I know that. I know one thing that I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to go back to the dilapidated temple and see if I can find that skeleton that you can duel.
Oh yeah, him.
Because
Training.
I do need to work on my combat.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's just to the right of the
so,
gate. You'll
uh,
find.
what else do you have to say about Sekiro?
Um, I love the stealth. That's something new.
Oh yeah,
Um, and I do kind of like how you don't have to, because with the Dark Souls and Bloodborne, you feel like you have to clear out the area like every single time you want to go through it. But with this game, you only really need to clear out the area once, maybe do some exploring, and then if you go back to that area, because you don't get experience, you can just sort of stealth past everyone and then move on to
yeah.
the next area. So that's
I love the death animations.
yes,
when you
so much
when you
fun.
when you kill somebody, just I love the how, like, because that's, I mean, like, I just love how over the top sometimes blood animation can get, either in movies or in video games or even like anime or manga or cartoons or whatever. And it's just all of a sudden you stab someone in the fucking chest, and all of a sudden gallon, like, more blood that is possibly in your body comes like spilling out. And it's just like, it's so fantastic. Can
And
you
the sound.
have
So it's
have you decapitated anybody yet? Can you decapitate people in the game?
no,
I've
not that I.
only I've only seen the sword get plunged into the chest and get ripped out violently
Neck
while
even.
fountains of blood come spilling out.
Decapitations would be amazing, actually.
I think that would be pretty sick. So, another thing that is kind of similar to the Bloodborne is that there's ridiculous looking enemies. Like, it goes from realistic to fantasy real quick.
Yeah.
um, but it's cool. I think it's like they make the fantasy things look really, really neat. But let's see. I guess, on that note, I think we've like, because we haven't, you haven't beaten the game yet. I've barely gotten into it, so I don't really know much more to talk about unless you have some more
So
comments to made on the game.
I've only faced one main boss. The rest of them were mini bosses, which are still pretty challenging in their own right. Like some of them you do struggle with, and it's always best to look up strategies for some of them. But yeah, I still got quite a while to go.
And one thing too is that I'm noticing is you've got to be a master at breaking posture, because
Yeah, don't look at their health and try to get that down. You got to focus on, because enemies block all the time and they've got their own moves they keep doing. So you've got to be on the defense just as
yeah,
much as offense.
yeah. Um, but damn, it feels good to play as a samurai, huh? Like, I have been waiting for a good. I've been honestly waiting for a good, like, samurai kind of game, and for
You
a
need
long
to
time.
play Neo. That one's probably my favorite of that entire genre, and
Which
it's
which
called
one is
Neo.
that?
Neo, Nioh. It's not
Okay.
made by Problem Software, but it's pretty much the same sort of game. Um,
What console generation was that on?
this one
It was
came
on
out
this one.
2017.
All
Yeah,
right, I'll look into it.
yeah, definitely. It's set in the same sort of era.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it has a bit more fantasy to it. I love it. You got to check that one out.
I've been waiting for Assassin's Creed to go there.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
I think it would be really interesting to see like a samurai assassin.
Yeah, because that's what they do.
I think like a game that takes place in feudal Japan for Assassin's Creed, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, with the success of Sekiro, assuming it does be really successful, I'm sure it will be. I reckon that'll spur on Ubisoft to do that with their game. Actually, didn't they have a samurai themed game, but it was like a 2D one? Or was that something else?
Oh, maybe they did. I think they might have. I think you're right. Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to, but that doesn't count.
No, it's a spin-off.
It's like Kingdom Hearts and like their handheld games. They don't count.
Oh, okay.
At least that was my stance until I found out that all of the Kingdom Hearts games are relevant. Like,
yes, and then you got to go back and play them if you want it to make sense.
Yeah, and it's just like, and you and I, we've talked, and and this is here. We'll switch over to Kingdom Hearts for a second because you and I have very interesting opinions about Kingdom Hearts. We both have. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say. I think the thing is, you didn't grow up with it the way that I did.
We played the first one in, back in high school or around that time.
But you never played the second one, huh?
No. Surprisingly, I don't know why I didn't get it.
Like, I mean, they're all available now. I mean, you could. I think you could get. There's a Story So Far edition that came out 4 months ago. That includes everything except for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay.
That's if you have the time for it. I mean, you play more games than I do. Like you don't have I don't know if you have the time for it. I hardly have the time for it, and I do want to go back and play them all. But the problem with here's the thing about Kingdom Hearts is that it's really hard to judge the story if you haven't played all the story parts. Because the story is and confusing that even those who have played all of them, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Like it's painfully obvious that Nomura, the director of the director of these games, I don't know how much involvement he had in like the handheld ones, but I think he's been involved in all the main titles. But like the three main titles, the Sora titles, it's painfully obvious that they were making it up as they go. Like it's like they're filling in the blanks. Like they're like, oh shit, so it's hard for me. One of the reasons why I decided to not write a review on the game. There's a really cool video. I ought to send it to you. But this guy, he's from Kotaku. He made this 15-minute long video about why I won't be reviewing Kingdom Hearts 3. And I'll send you the link to that video later. I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's really funny. I thought it was really funny. But he talks about how he's like Kingdom Hearts is kind of everything that you could possibly want in a video game, all thrown together in this pish posh of nonsense. It's just he basically and maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but like the game is just entertainment. It's just like it's not meant to be anything besides entertainment, which I think is a way that we should look at a lot of the media that we review, is that it's just meant to be entertainment, and what is good and what is bad is completely subjective. Is that the right word? You get what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you can enjoy a game that's not that good, but there's still a difference between a game that's well made and a game that's not well made.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And I will, and like I can totally it's for me, like, and I've said this. And we've talked about this a little bit too. It's like the hate training, like that. There's so much hate training on the internet right now, and it's been bringing me down actually. Like I've actually stopped following some of my favorite channels because they've just decided to buy into this hate training idea that pulls in more views and pulls in more comments and watches and things like that. And it's just like, it's like, does Anthem deserve all of the hate that it's getting? I don't think so.
Huh?
You
don't think some of it's valid? Some of the criticisms?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely do. And but like but I think that some people are hating on some of these games just for the sake of hating on them. Just to hate
Yeah.
them. Um so but I think on your comment it like something could be bad, but it can still be enjoyable. And I'm going to use a movie as an example. Have you ever seen the movie Snakes on a Plane?
No, I haven't.
The movie's stupid. The movie's absolute
Yeah.
utter trash, but it's so good. It is so good.
Is it
Snakes
like
on a
so
Plane.
bad it's good sort of thing?
Huh?
Is it like a so bad it's good sort of thing?
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. It's so ridiculous. But I forgot the point that I was trying to make. But it was something about Kingdom Hearts. But I was just basically saying that like I just didn't want to write a review on it because like I didn't want to review it because like you know. But I, just to be completely honest with you, the and I think one of the reasons why I'm feeling this way is that it took 13 years for this game to come out. It took
Mm,
13 years and there was so much hype around it. There was so much expectation. I really tried my best to keep my expectation low, but when I completed Kingdom Hearts 3, I was I still enjoyed the game. I like the game a lot and I always will like the game a lot. But from a critical standpoint, I was like that was slightly underwhelming.
mm, mm. And like when I went into Kingdom Hearts 3, I did my best to try to read up on what the game, at least, like, of course, there's the story so far. I tried to read up on what had
Mhm.
happened so far, but I mainly focused on what the story of that particular game was,
Mhm.
what what the bad guy was trying to do, and what the good guys were trying to achieve to stop them.
And
That's from a storyline point of view. That's what I kind of looked at.
right. And the problem with that is that what's interesting about Kingdom Hearts 3 and the problem that a lot of people who just focus on it as its own solo story is like it's almost impossible because you literally have to know what goes on, what happened in all the other 10
Mm.
titles that came out for the Kingdom Hearts series to know because like I'm playing it and I'm like trying to and I read up and I watched all these videos just to kind of get caught up. And even I was like saying, like, what? Who is this guy?
I
Who
know a
is
new
this guy?
character every hour.
Like, where did he come from? Like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who Vanitas is. I don't remember seeing him in any other games. I don't remember seeing him in any of the videos that I read. I don't know who Vanitas is. I don't know who's Gian is. It's like, who are these characters? And
I know even the main characters don't know who they are. How are we supposed to know?
right? It's like who? What? I mean, like basically the only stuff that was relevant to me was the stuff that I'd seen in Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3. That
Mm,
that's it. Because I didn't play any other ones because they were all on handheld and when I was growing up, I either had a console or I had a handheld. I didn't really have both because a console costs 200 and a handheld costs 200. So it's like what do I want to get? A console or a
yeah,
handheld?
well, the other.
So so it was like trust me, I would have loved to have played them all growing up because I could have.
Yeah,
But I just like I would have to have it. I would have had to have had a PSP or a Game Boy Advance, and then like a Nintendo 3DS.
yeah,
And it's just like
yes.
I have to have all these different consoles. Ridiculous. But
But even still, like in terms of Kingdom Hearts 3, I still think they could have done a better job with their storytelling because I'm going to use Mass Effect 3 as an example because that still has its own self-contained story.
it
But
does.
even though there's two games leading up to it, you
Mhm.
might not have that emotional attachment to, say, the characters or to what's going on. But I think you can probably still enjoy Mass Effect 3 in its own right, even though
Oh
you
yeah,
might
you
not know all the characters. But
can
with Kingdom
absolutely.
Hearts 3, it doesn't really make an attempt um, to have its own coherent story, if you know what I mean.
Mhm. And and yes, and then also on a point of like, okay, so they want to they want to end this big story, right? So so I totally see what you're saying, but now but if they did but the thing is I feel like if they wanted to keep the game as a full-on continuation that you needed to have played the other games at to understand and hear me out when I say this, they could have done a lot better. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like they could have done a lot better. It's like, okay, well, you need to have played all the other games, but the thing is as someone who has played the as who's played the other ones, uh and someone who also knows the story of the other ones, I felt like going to the Disney worlds seemed forced. Okay.
Mm.
Now I
Yeah,
know
that was my problem with the game, with the story, because Sora and his adventures, it felt so detached from the main story. So
it
while
was.
you're doing all these other things in the Disney world, all these other things were happening around him, and you had no involvement.
Mhm.
That to me was a part of the poor storytelling of the game, that they really should have had Sora more involved into it, so we could have followed it better.
But so it's basically, you've got like you've well, I think in a way Kingdom Hearts 3 is the return of the king of the franchise. Okay? Like it is the finale of this grand adventure, and you don't get to the finale of this grand adventure until the last 2 hours of the game.
Yeah,
Um
that's true. And I enjoy that part of it. I enjoyed that, you were fine. We finally got to be involved into it, and you look a little confused.
No, no, yeah, sorry, I just got a text and I was like, "Who the heck is text?" Sorry, that was my bad. A text just came over across my screen and I was like, "What is that?" So that's my bad. So no, I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah,
Um, but okay, so yeah, like, and it was when you get to that point at the end of the great game, it's awesome. It's like, okay, this is what we've been trying to get up to this point. But it's like I feel like you could have had those. So you know how at the end of the game you're battling all the other members of Organization 13
yeah. You mean throughout the
throughout
Disney
the.
World?
No, but not even in the Disney worlds. I'm talking about at the very, very end where you're going to save your party, your member, and
Yeah,
they're fighting a couple members of the Organization 13,
yeah,
and you have
yeah,
to rescue them. I feel like those boss battles, those to keep the game sort of going, to keep Sora more involved throughout the story of the game. I feel like he could have fought those Organization 13 members throughout the game as opposed to all at the very end.
yeah, yeah. Instead of having like a boss
Hello?
rush kind of
Oh, okay.
thing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was just kind of like every time I went to a Disney World, I was not really concerned about what was going on in those Disney worlds. I was more concerned about the cutscenes that preceded them,
Okay.
and that was before them and after them. Whether it be them like trying to figure out like, okay, do we need to get a body for this character? Do we need that, or it was like what's going on with Kyrie and Axel? I was more interested in that I was more interested in what was going on in the relevant story than these small Disney based irrelevant parts of the story. Like I was just
Yeah,
like, okay,
well, that's how I tried to enjoy the game. Actually, the opposite, because the cutscenes for the main story just went over my head. And I tried my best to follow them. Like I really paid attention. But then by the time you get to the Disney World, I just wanted to stay focused on those particular stories, because that's how I stayed engaged into it.
I would say though that they picked some good Disney worlds. I will say that maybe they could have gone with a couple other ones. Um, Sorry, I got another text. I need to turn that off. I get them on my computer because I have an app. I have Apple.
Interesting.
I have an iPhone and a Mac, so you can connect the
Yeah.
two, so I can get the text messages from here and there. But so I just got it. Sorry, I just got a text. Yeah, so I just got another text. My bad. Um, but I do feel like they could have picked some other Disney movies that they could have gone into. Um, like I don't know. I was never a big fan of Frozen, so it's like I could have done without that one.
I love Frozen, actually. I'll admit it.
The Frozen world was okay, but it's like
Mm.
they're throwing in the bad guy at the very end of the Frozen world. It's like, where did he come from? Like
Yeah,
in the movie he's relevant throughout the entire movie, but then at the end of the world, it's like boom, here's the bad guy. It's like what? Um,
yeah,
but I think that we could. I would have liked to have seen a Wreck It Ralph world. I think that would have been a really cool
yeah.
world.
Haven't seen that
Um,
movie, but
oh,
yeah,
it's really good. Wreck-It Ralph is good. Uh, but no, it wasn't it wasn't a bad game, but it did fall a little short for me.
mm,
Um, but but just because it represents a part of my childhood, I'll still love it and I'll probably play it again. I want to go through them all again. And eventually go through all of the titles, just to
yeah,
kind
so
of get
you
the
know
full story.
exactly what's happening.
Um, and then like I'm really curious to see what they're going to be doing with Kingdom Hearts 4 whenever that comes out in 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
So, but well,
How did
Tommy, go ahead.
oh, ask, how did you enjoy the combat in Kingdom Hearts? I'm curious to know what you thought.
Okay, what was your question about what was your comments about the combat?
Oh, I just wanted to know what
Oh,
you thought about it.
okay, so and here's and I think I kind of know where we're going with this. So here's the thing about the overall um gameplay of Kingdom Hearts. The
Mm.
gameplay and the setup of Kingdom Hearts 3 is 3 generations ago. Okay? It
Yeah, you
is
definitely get that sense.
yeah, and I think I've talked to you about this too. But I'll reiterate. Um Kingdom Hearts basically they since Kingdom Hearts 1, and at least in Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3, they've kept the same sort of user interface. They've kept the same combat style, they've kept the same camera style, they've kept the same leveling up style. It's very simplistic, it's very PlayStation 2. Okay.
Yeah, gaming has
Um,
evolved since then. That's sort of why it just didn't feel like going back to that older style when things have gotten better since.
so, but I think the reason why they decided to keep it the way it is because that's the way it's been for almost 20 years. Um,
Yeah.
and I do think that I hope that because of like this changes that technology, the way the technology has advanced and the way the gameplay has advanced in the past 20 years, I do hope that they bring the future of I do hope that the future of the series finally sort of I hope that with the ending of the Dark Seeker saga and the beginning of the next saga, whatever that might be, and it's obvious that they're going to go there. Um,
Yeah.
um, and I do hope that they mix it up. Now, if they don't mix it up, will I be upset? Probably not, because it's what I've been playing for 20 years.
Mm,
And I know that it hasn't been out for 20 years, but I'm just rounding up. By the time
yeah.
the next one comes out, it'll have probably been 20 years since the first one comes out, if not longer. But
Mm,
will I be upset? No. But do I want it to change? Yeah, because it
why
should.
not?
It's kind of like God of War. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
you take this. The God of War had the same sort of gameplay style for was that 10 years? Around
Yeah.
10 years, maybe 8 years. Um, from God of War 1 to God of War 3, it was. I think that it was about maybe it started. It was 2005 to about 2013 or 14. So yeah, it was probably about an eight,
Yeah.
a 5 to 8.
2013 was God
Huh?
of War Ascension. 2013 was God of War Ascension.
Okay,
So,
but we
yeah.
we won't count that one.
It was good. I
It was
enjoyed it.
good. Okay. Um, but I guess like as far as the three main titles go, um, but like the game needed a change up, and and and
I
the
still enjoyed it the way it was.
huh?
I still enjoyed it the way it was, but I know other people might,
I
take
don't get me
serious.
wrong. I did enjoy like the hack and slash of the original trilogy. Um, but man, was the reimagining brilliant though? It was amazing. It's
Yeah,
God of War 4 or whatever you want to call it, just God of War PlayStation 4, God of War 2018. In my opinion, it's a masterpiece of storytelling. It's a masterpiece of gameplay. It's one of the best.
yeah,
It is one of the best, if not the best game of the current generation of
yeah.
PlayStation.
In terms of everything you can judge a game for, that game would top almost everything else.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It did new things for gaming. It did all sorts of great things. So
Mm,
and did that have to do with the change up of gameplay? Maybe a little bit. Um, but I think that if you continue keeping something that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think that and you can kind of look at that throughout gaming history. You got Resident Evil 1, 2, and
I was
3.
just gonna bring up Resident Evil. Yeah,
You got Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, did the fixed camera angles, and then you jumped to Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, and that did like the over the shoulder third person, and and you can tell that it all of a slowly they start to get a little stale, right? They kind of
yeah, yeah.
like
That's what you need to
now
change up.
now I enjoy it. Now I'm one of the very few people on the planet that did enjoy Resident Evil 6. I thought Resident Evil 6 was a lot of fun. But it was very interesting, and I do see people's complaints with Resident Evil 6.
Mm.
Um but I personally think that if they had just, have you played Resident Evil 6?
I haven't. Like, I'm a huge fan, but after seeing gameplay footage, how it just went too far into the action, it sort of lost me.
So
I don't
I
know.
think you know what I think they should have done. So the game focuses on basically three sets of characters.
Hmm.
One set is Leon, one set is Chris Redfield, and the other set is Jake Mueller. Okay, Jake Mueller is the son of Albert Wesker. Okay,
Yeah,
and his and he's joined by Sherry Birkin, who
that's right.
is
Yeah, I heard
the,
that.
you know, the little girl in Resident Evil 2.
Hmm.
Um, their story was the most interesting, and I think that if they had made if they had made the game focused on them with Chris and Leon being side characters, I think it would have been a lot better
Okay.
because in a way Jake's story kind of combined both the action and the survivor horror aspects, but
Okay.
the chemistry between Jake Mueller and Sherry Birkin was really well developed, in my
Okay.
opinion. I really liked. So I think where Resident Evil 6 fell flat was the fact that they tried to they crammed in three. Well, technically they crammed in like 4 or 5 stories into one game. They have the Chris story, Leon, Jake, Ada, and Hunk. There's always a fucking Hunk story.
Oh,
Um,
okay. That was a
yeah.
hunk.
So I think that there's a Hunk. I'm pretty sure that there is, but there is basically 4 or 5 campaigns crammed into this one campaign, into this one game. So like I just think that if you're gonna do that, I like there shouldn't be more than one. There shouldn't be more than 2 campaigns in a single game, in my opinion.
Yeah, because they're not fleshed out enough if there's
Mhm.
too many separate stories in a
So
medium-sized game.
so back to the point that I'm trying to say is that I think that it is okay to shake up the formula to keep it fresh.
Yeah,
You
yeah. After a few
And
games at least.
then you in Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 changed up the formula again by making
Mm.
it first person. And it was very well received, and I
Wow.
actually haven't it was a very fun game. I haven't beaten it, but from what I have played, it is really fun and it's
Yeah,
scary. It
I
had
love
me on
it.
my toes. But with Resident Evil 2, the remake, God, there is something about that third person perspective. You know, they brought that third person perspective back for Resident Evil 2, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck the first person. Fuck the first person perspective.
They just made
Eh,
it work really well.
Um, Resident Evil 2, I think the Resident Evil 2 remake, I think is a very, very solid, good contender for Game of the Year already.
So far, yeah, so far it still is.
It's
Fine,
the
but
best game that I've played so far this year.
yeah, well and truly. I don't
Eh,
even know what's out that can compare.
Nothing right now. I don't think so.
I mean,
I
Sekiro
mean,
is pretty good, but I don't think it reaches that level.
I think I know we'll have to see where it goes in the next couple of weeks,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um, excuse me. We'll have to see where it goes in the next couple of weeks. But maybe Sekiro could qualify for maybe another Game of the Year spot. But
Maybe top 5, maybe,
yeah,
but
um, but I just like I'm even thinking ahead. I can't even think of any upcoming games that could possibly get it. Maybe Days Gone. Maybe Days Gone will be an amazing game. But
yeah, I think it'll be good, but I don't know if it'll reach those heights. But yeah, we never know.
that's the next game on my list is Days Gone. I'm looking forward to the game.
Yeah, it's like a whole
Um,
month away though, so we've got time to play what's
yeah.
yeah.
But like, I mean, unless Cyberpunk 2077 or The
Yeah,
Last of Us 2 come out this year, I
yeah.
think I
There's no
think it's going to be Resident Evil 2 and what other and a few other games that they're just going to put in their sake for the sake of having a category filled with games. Okay, but
yeah.
Resident Evil 2 is essentially a perfect game. It like in
Yeah,
my
I
opinion,
but
I think my only biggest issue with it was nothing. I did give it like a 9.5, but it was just because I think it was just because that like, you know, you can't really, you know, once you've beaten it kind of like the 4 times that you can't really do much more with it unless you're a speedrunner, which I'm not. I'm not a speedrunner. I'm
but
not good
even
at that
still,
kind of stuff.
it's
Huh?
still a fun game just to play fresh and like from
Yeah.
scratch over and over. That's the good thing about Resident Evil games. They never really get old. That's why I've passed all of them that I played so many times over, because they just have that thing about them that you can easily play them again. And I'll be doing that with Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think I started streaming Resident Evil 2, and it was just like, oh man, this game is so much fun. I don't care. I don't care if I'm playing as Leon again. Oh, it's so good. So, well, look, Jay. I almost called you Jake. I don't know why, but I was thinking about Jake Mueller from Resident Evil. But look, Tommy, we've been talking for about a good hour and a half now. I need to get going home. It is 5:30 p.m. yesterday for you.
Oh,
So I'm kind of ready to go and finish out my day. I got to go, I got to get up and go to work in the morning. So I kind of want to go home and relax. So,
yeah.
thanks for coming on. I appreciate you coming on again. And
Yeah,
I think we're gonna talk again next weekend with Aiden and Kristen, I believe. I hope.
good.
So I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I'm actually probably gonna hey, can you email me any Sekiro footage that you might have that I can put on this podcast on this YouTube video?
You mean from my own
Have you
video?
saved any video from your PlayStation?
I have.
Do you think
I
you
do
could?
that. I can do screenshots of my reviews. So yeah.
Oh, because I was just curious if you could send me any of that footage. That way I can put it on here. But if that's something that's kind of difficult, that's not a big deal.
I'm just not sure how to do it properly.
Oh, okay. It's all right. I can text you and just kind of give you kind of a rundown of what you can do.
Yep.
But
what about if I send it to my YouTube channel? Is there anything you can do? Go from there.
I could you know what? I'll message you because this sounds like a really weird thing to be talking about during the recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm going to get packed up here and I'm going to head on home, and then I will talk to you a little later, I'm sure. And we'll talk about, other games and footage and things like that.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tommy, we'll be in touch. Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.